Once again, a lot of things to talk about here on this week's Cattle Call. We had a couple of government reports at the end of last week. We're going to talk a little weather, talk demand, and some other things that are going on in the cattle markets. Cattle Call is an original production of the Nebraska Rural Radio Association, and it is brought to you in part by Wolf Auto, small town strong. On today's program, we'll lean on the expertise of Joe Koima Varlick there at Sioux Center, Iowa. I think Brad is on vacation, and I guess, everybody deserves a vacation every now and again. But, Joe, thanks for being on. Before we talk about what's going on in the cattle markets, what about this derecho event that was predicted for parts of South Dakota, Minnesota, and Northwest Iowa? Did that come to fruition? What do things look like up there right now?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on this afternoon. And there are quite a few communities that do probably covet some prayers in need here. A lot of cleanup going on here in Sioux Center. Several other communities are hit just as hard too. But straight line winds that endured for a long time. Some flat crops here and there. A lot of trees down in the middle of town. Some houses got hit hard too, and a lot of structural damage in the country, whether you talk machine sheds, cattle barns, or hog barns too. So it's not what you want to wake up to and drive around and see right around yesterday morning. But the scene is active. We're getting a lot of stuff cleaned up. But we certainly cover your prayers for Sioux Center and all the rest of the surrounding communities that need it.
Yeah, definitely will do. Thanks for the update on that. Let's jump into the cattle markets. Last week, Joe, if you had to kind of describe where we ended last week, I might call it a win, considering what we saw for some final sale numbers. And I don't know, what do you make of where we ended with sales and volume and things like that from last week, Joe?
I think the volume was maybe a touch light last week, and that shouldn't really be a surprise. We're enduring some cattle, some cuts coming from the cattle packers there. So they're not out as aggressive looking for numbers, but the numbers certainly are tight and they continue to be that way. But I thought we did a good job in this overbought marketplace that we could still continue to have cash, have some momentum higher. There's 240, 242. There was a little 245 happening late on Friday, and the South had 230 to 232, which I would call that steady to $1 higher. So that just tells you, how drastically tight these numbers are, that even with these kill cuts, that these packers still have to kind of look around and find them. And once they find them, they just can't say, well, we'll take them off your hands. We had a little fight coming here with the producers that dig their heels in the ground and say, no, you got to pay us for what we got. We know it's limited.
All right. Well, let's talk about some things that are kind of headlining here in the beef industry. I mentioned it before, we had a couple of reports that came out from USDA, biannual cattle inventory report, and then the monthly cattle on feed update. If you had to summarize the high points of that, was there anything in either one of those reports, Joe, that kind of stuck out to you?
The one that stuck out, obviously, is going to be the placement pattern that we continue to kind of see. Surprised that guess was that high at 98%. It came back at 92. The Mexican border has been shut for a solid 7 months now, with a few cases of a few weeks open there. So it's always bizarre why it's such a higher number there, but that's definitely where the bullish factor came out right away on Monday morning, because we gapped open higher on the backs of that. When you dive into the numbers a little bit more, it's not a surprise that the South is where the lighter placement numbers are coming, or lack of going there, I should say. The northern part still, Iowa actually placed a little bit more than a year ago, but that's where all the feed is made in this general area. So no big surprises there. The inventory report, though, very cumbersome to try to use that as where do we go from here, because unfortunately they're comparing it to 2 years ago. So that's just tough. I mean, you can find a bullish or a bearish pattern in that if a guy basically wants to, but obviously we're going to be less than 2 years ago. We all know that. We have the smallest, herd on record, and a year ago is since the 60s and so forth. So no big surprises there. But if we do compare it to the January inventory report, you can find some numbers probably showing up there, and it's maybe too early to say in this report that we're seeing a lot of, heifer retention or rebuilding of herd, but there's certainly maybe just a few little snippets that it is happening. Moisture levels are abundant in certain areas where cow calf guys are, other than some areas up like on Montana and whatnot. But you're starting to get a lot of grass out there, so it kind of makes sense to maybe compare that inventory report with January and maybe start seeing just a little hint of we better start rebuilding this hurdle just a little bit right now. So.
All right. Now, in this, where we sit now in terms of the situation, we talked about having a nice week last week. The friendly government reports. What about on the consumer side? Where have you been kind of looking into the demand? How is demand holding up right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we can maybe kind of put some of that, finally maybe put a little bit of a number on it, I should say. Backing up here a little bit, last year, we do believe that that's where the really good beef consumption started, whether the beef demand, I should say. And that even stems all the way back to COVID, just protein in general. And this last leg of this rally this year, I think, is on tight numbers. But we've always been asked, like, aren't we getting high enough to wreck demand? Where is that? But some studies came out today, and that our beef consumption compared to last year is up 4%. Not just a little bit. So we definitely put the taste in all the consumers' mouth about beef compared to the other proteins, and they just have a hard time really backing off. Even with the higher prices on some of the grinds and the ground beef, that type of stuff, they still kind of actively go at that. And it's hard to pinpoint necessarily, but here's my theory, and we're going to kind of dive in a little bit with Prop 12. Was a situation in California where they want pigs raised a certain way, and that just kind of made their price of pork go higher in California. And California actually domestically takes on 15% of our U.S. pork production. But now we have a very comparable product in California. When you look at the price of beef and pork, they can't really feature pork a whole lot because it's too expensive because of that Prop 12 business. So I think that's where maybe we're overlooking some of the demand that's probably coming out of California, and certainly everywhere else. But that'd be my little snippet of why our demand stays so good, even with these a little bit higher prices compared to a year ago.
Well, I would say it's good enough to be a working theory. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on it, definitely, as we work through the rest of summer and into the fall. With the time that we have left, Joe, maybe just give your preview. What are the keys to cash cattle trade this week? Not a whole lot going on so far, just a few here and there, but what do you think of the potential for this week, Joe?
It's feeling pretty good right now. Like I mentioned, there's some kill cuts. I still think there's a certain packer that's kind of needs some cattle. There's some initial bids of 245 in eastern Nebraska, I believe. Nothing's happened there. There was some 385 too, so we're already talking about a little bit better cash market to start. That Fed cattle exchange too, the South kind of tripped up, and they got some 237, which I'm not sure what we compared to that last week on that auction. But certainly it feels a little bit better, and you still have a market that's discounted. So you still have August and October discounts where that's at. So that's pumping the board up today. But the producers have the leverage right now, and we're going to just utilize that moving forward. And I would say stay current, but it's just like, yeah, the numbers are tight enough that we are current. But certainly it's going to be tough to pass probably some of the cash this week, but just maintain it. Great prices here. Use your head. But yeah, record levels. It's part of me says I'm not sure what to say a whole lot anymore of how much higher we can go from here, but the fundamentals are there.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate your insight. Thank you so much, Joe. Again, that's Joe Koima Varlick at Sioux Center, Iowa. Oh, give us your contact information, Joe, for folks that would like to reach out.
Sure. Yeah. Give us a call here, 1-800-358-3047, or just check us out on our website, kkvtrading.com.
All right. Always good to have you on. Appreciate it very much. And if after you've watched this program, you have a question that you would like to ask the folks at KKV, by all means, put that in the comments, and we'll come back next week and ask the experts some of the questions that you have. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that notifications button. That'll let you know when we have another cattle call that comes out each week. Thanks for joining us on this week's Cattle Call. Again, brought to you by Wolf Auto, Small Town Strong. For the Nebraska Rural Radio Association, Chad Moyer reporting.